Dana here. Welcome to Sew Learn Create. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of the sewing tutorials and DIY videos that I do. Today's project, we're going to be making a basic sewing notion, and it's a pin cushion, but it's a multi-purpose pin cushion. It has a place for your pens, a ribbon for all your wonder clips, and a little pocket for your seam ripper. And then the other side of the pocket, you can tuck in your chalk or anything else that you like to keep handy when you're sewing. So let's get started. For today's project, the multi-purpose pin cushion, you'll need the following supplies. To begin, we're going to take our pieces for our pocket, and we're going to create our pocket so it has two sides. One side is larger, and the pocket where you put your seam ripper is a little bit smaller. So we're going to put our right sides together, line them up nice and even, and then we're just going to clip those. And when we go to the machine, we're just going to do a stitch right down this seam. So let's go to the machine. Here at the machine, we're going to do 1/4 of an inch seam all the way down our pockets pieces. I like to use my 1/4 inch foot so that I have a nice guide to make my seam nice and straight. So we're just going to remove the first clip, put our needle down, of course. When you're using a 1/4 inch foot, be sure you keep those fabric edges right up next to your guide. Clip our threads. Then we're going to go back to the mat and open this up and press it to where it's nice and flat. So let's go to the mat. Now that we've sewed our pocket together, we're going to press it. You always want to press your seam towards one side, and then we're going to open it up and press it flat. So I'm just going to press it this way so it lays nice and flat. Then I'm going to flip it over, and for this project we want our seam pressed open. So you just open up your seam, take the point of your iron and just run it right down the middle of that. Once you get it all open, then I like to go over it just a few times to make sure it's all laying nice and flat. And the reason we want to open up that seam is we are going to actually fold this piece to create our pocket, and that will make it lay a little nicer. So we're going to fold it over, making sure that we line up our seams, our open seam, right there. That kind of locks them in place, and then we're going to give it a nice good press. And the folded edge will give us the top of our pocket, and then our pocket is fully lined all the way down. Now we're going to baste our pocket to our front piece so it doesn't slip on us when we sew. So we take our front with right side up, and we take our pocket and lay it right on top. You just want to make sure that the small side of your pocket is on the left side of your front, and that creates the place for your seam ripper. So we're going to clip that in place. You also want to make sure that the folded edge of your pocket is towards the middle. And when we go to the machine, we're going to stitch all the way around, basting this pocket in place. So let's go to the machine. Now we're at the machine, and we're going to baste our pocket in place. So when I baste, I use the inside edge of my foot so that I have a very narrow seam. We're going to start here at the top. All the way down to the corner. My needle's down. I'm going to lift and turn and keep going across. all the way to this corner, lift and turn, and I'm going to stop just right at the top of this pocket. Clip my threads. Maybe. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to stitch down our pocket seam right here to create two sides of our pocket. Now when I do this, I don't have to back stitch because when we add the ribbon, we're going to stitch across that area again. So line up your needle right on this seam and you're just going to stitch from the top of the pocket all the way off the edge. Get those threads out of our way. And now we have a big side of our pocket and a smaller side. The next step is to take your ribbon and we're going to baste it in place also. So we're going to line it up, and this covers that seam for our pocket. So we're going to clip it at the top and the bottom. And then we're going to first stitch right across this section here, and that secures your ribbon so that it's not loose, it's tight, so your wonder clips don't move around on you. Get my threads under my needle. And we're just going to stitch right across this section. Now this one I will want to back stitch and go over it a couple of times to make sure it's nice and secure. All of our threads so they're out of our way. I like to clip my threads as I go, then I have less threads in my way. The next step is we'll go back to the mat and I'll show you. Now we're going to put our front piece and our back piece together. So I'm going to take my front piece and lay it flat, leaving these clips for my ribbon so that I can just move those so my ribbon doesn't slip and get pulled up inside there and not get caught. Then I'm going to take my back piece and I'll lay it on top. And the first thing I'm going to clip is I'm going to slide that off where my ribbon was and just put it there, making sure that my ribbon doesn't slip. Now the other thing we're going to do is we're going to leave an opening large enough for our slide our piece of cardboard in, and the cardboard just protects so the pins, when you push them through, don't come out the back. So we need to leave an opening that's a pretty good size on the side so we can slide our cardboard in. So I'm going to use my red and my green clip. So I'm going to start here with my green clip, put my red clip on, and this will be where I can slide my cardboard through. Then I'm going to clip around the other edges and head back to the machine. Now we're going to stitch all the way around, leaving this large opening for our cardboard. So remember my red and green clip, my green clip means go, so I'm going to line it up here, stitch all the way around, and I'm going to stop at my red clip. Get to the corner, needle down and turn. Just keep going. Now I'm almost back to my red clip, so when I lift and turn, I'm going to have to remove it because it's so close to my edge, but I'm going to put my finger there as kind of a reminder of where I need to stop. Then we'll go back to the mat and insert our cardboard through our opening. Now we stitch all the way around and we've left this kind of large opening. Before I clip my corners and turn it, I always want to double check and make sure that I've caught everything that I needed to catch. So I'm going to flip it over and I can see that I've caught my pocket. The other thing I want to check is I want to make sure that I've caught my ribbon in my seam. And it looks like we have, so we're good. Then we're going to clip our corners. And remember, we're just reducing this bulk, and you always want to clip across, diagonally across the corner, but not cut your stitching. And you do that on all 4 corners. And where your pocket is, you're going through several layers of fabric, so just cut it slowly and you'll get through them. Next, we're going to turn our pin cushion right side out. So I put my finger through, I go to one of the corners, and then I just take my thumb and push it out the opening. That gives me a good chunk to grab a hold of and turn it right side out. Once it's right side out, I'm going to take my chopstick. I'm going to put it in here and get those corners out nice and crisp. Alright, then I'm going to give it a quick press just so that my seams lay nice and flat. I also want to make sure that where I have my opening, my pieces kind of lay flat inside there, so when I stitch that closed by hand, that will roll in nicely and make a nice edge. Now comes the tricky part. You have your cardboard, and you can see your cardboard is almost the same size as your pin cushion, but it's not as small. Our opening is not quite as big. So we're going to gently roll our cardboard, tuck it inside, and once it's all the way in, then you can just slide it around and flatten it out. Now your cardboard is on the inside. So you want to slide it more. This is the part where you're normally going to put your pins. So you want to slide your cardboard so it kind of makes sure that that area is covered. Next, we're going to take our polyfill and we're going to stuff our pin cushion. When you're working with polyfill, it's best to take just a small amount and put it in. The tricky part on this project is you want to make sure that you're pushing it in on top of the cardboard, not underneath, so that your pins come through and your cardboard is on the very bottom. So I'm going to finish stuffing this, and then I'll show you how to close up your pin cushion and we'll be done. Now I've stuffed my pin cushion, making sure using my chopstick that I've gotten my polyfill into my corners. You want this to be fluffy but not too fluffy because you're going to put things in the pocket. Next, we're going to clip our opening, and we're going to hand stitch this seam closed. So I've got a needle and thread. I'm going to start it pulling it through one side so that my knot goes inside. Then I'm going to take and I'm going to lay my thread over the top, come from the front to the back, just making a tiny stitch. And I'm going to just repeat that process, laying my thread over the top, coming from the front, and I'm going to close up. I'm going to go all the way across until I close up this whole opening. And after that, our pin cushion is done. You can take your Wonder Clips, clip them on the side, put your pins in this section, and your seam ripper fits nicely in this pocket. And then you still have this pocket area for something else if you wanted to keep a piece of chalk or whatever in that pocket also. I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial, and if you did, be sure you give it a thumbs up. Also, if you make a multi-purpose pin cushion, I would love to see a picture of it. Thanks for watching Sew, Learn, Create, and I'll see you in the next video.